I'd like to welcome Sima. Sima's personal experience with brain injury rehabilitation started in 2016 after a serious car crash. And from years of physiotherapy and psychological care, she knew she needed sustainable forms of treatment as her condition improved. While she's always been physically active and competitive, ballroom dancing had the right combination of physical and emotional support for her recovery. She has dance articles, and she's also an author of a book called Mindful Meditation. And she's here today to discuss how dance therapy helped her and how it's continued to be an important practice in her therapy as she continues to move forward.
So I love dancing. I've done it for most of my life. And for me, dance can be fun. Rehabilitation can be fun. And I think that's something that as brain injury survivors, we don't always get that benefit of understanding and knowing and thinking about, right? You go into psych, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And so the reason I came into dance was because of chronic pain. For chronic pain, you really need to have a lot of movement. And so what we're going to cover today is a short introduction about me, reasons dance works well for brain injury, and other benefits to dance, and challenges dance programs face. The program's quite intensive to get into, so it's not a lot of dance therapists. And if you just want to go it on your own, like I said, I didn't have the advantage of having a dance therapist, but at the same time, there are things that, because we're not like everyone else, problems with lighting, problems with sound, problems with volume, you can get started. There are programs like Dancing for Parkinson's, and so if they can do it, I mean, we can definitely do something something like that. Also, too, because I do have a brain injury. If you see me looking away, I do have notes to make sure that I didn't miss anything. It's just, yeah, I've recovered quite well, but still, it's a little bit nerve-wracking when you're talking to people. So here we go. So this is a picture of me and my instructor, Jessel. The picture is featured in the Dance Current, November 2020 magazine. Dance helped me recover from 2 serious car accidents. I had one in 2016, and then I was hit again in 2018. I'm not a dance therapist. And again, it's because it's really intensive. So on top of doing a master's of social work, I would also have to do another 3 years of training on top of that to become a dance therapist. And at my age, it's difficult. It's difficult to make that transition. But at the same time, I did use dance for recovery. I'm back in school. I have very few chronic pain instances and that kind of thing. I write, as I said, I have a couple articles with Dance Current, one for Dance International in Vancouver, and I had written a book about meditation. A fun fact about me is my first degree is actually in chemistry. So I teach cosmetic courses about how to make creams, lotions, and that kind of thing. So just to change it up a little bit, as you know, like the more we can do, the more different things we can do for our brain, the better off we are. And so I think that's something that we really need to keep in mind. Like whatever hobbies, whatever things that we used to do, we need to keep doing them. And it's not going to be the same. And that was something I really discovered with dancing, is that especially when I was younger. So when I was 20, I would dance at the same studio. And it would be the case of I would go in and I'd be great. I was super healthy, super strong. And I'd come out feeling like really worked. Like my teacher really worked me hard. And then in my 40s, after my accident, it was different. I'd come in a lot of pain, and I'd leave feeling great. So there's that. So really encourage people not to give up on things that they love. If you like to draw, if you like to paint, if you like to dance, hike, accommodate. We'll need different things, and than we did when we like pre-accident. So I really encourage you, don't give up. Just see what you can do to make those changes work for you. And so why dance for brain health? Everybody hears exercise is great, and dance gives you great exercise. It increases blood flow, you'll gain strength and muscle mass. Also, it's the mental challenge, right? Like moving to a rhythm is challenging, like for anybody, not just for brain injured people, for everyone. I was teaching classes, and getting people to count to 4 can be tough, or 3 if we're doing walks. Learning new movement patterns is also mentally challenging. And also too, like because I do ballroom, I have to move with a partner and different partners throughout the classes, especially when I was student teaching. And learning new movement patterns, the different types of dancing. There's Latin, there's waltz, tango, foxtrot, samba, salsa, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's very mentally challenging to keep everything in mind. And then with the social aspect, if you're people, it's going to reduce stress and depressive symptoms. That's a given. But also too, like it helps, right? Because people in our lives, they don't understand what we're going through. I mean, that's something that I found, even with my counselor. He didn't understand what I was going through, but with my friends who dance with me, they get a better idea. They get a better sense of, okay, she's not that different. So that's really important. And so if you're doing all of these things, you're less stressed, you've got more exercise, you're feeling better, you're probably going to sleep better. And that's also standard advice on how to help yourself if you're dealing with a brain injury. And so other benefits of dance as rehabilitation, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And when activities are fun, we're more likely to continue and participate long term. And that was something that I definitely found. It was nice when I had a community waiting for me, not just a physiotherapist or a psychologist waiting for me. It's just just a whole community of people who I taught. I was also a student teacher, as well as, my instructor who worked with me and that kind of thing. It's cost effective. For me, it was running about $2 an hour. For private dance lessons, it was about $100 an hour. And when you're working with chronic pain, the more movement you can get, the better it is for you. And yeah, so with my brain injury, that's my biggest symptom, is the chronic pain. And the article I wrote for Dance Current was what we were talking about for the most part. But there's other things, right? Like sensitivities to light, to sound. And in my my classes that I took, I didn't have a lot of music. That was one thing that was very odd for most people when I tell them, is that I don't dance with music. I do a lot of repetitive motion and a lot of strength training, which people don't always think about that in dancing. But if you go to a competitive class, that's what you do. That you do a lot of repetitive motion. So it's really funny. Like when you get injured, the first thing you don't think about is, oh, I should join a competitive ballroom class. But for me, that's where I went because it fit the best. Going into social dancing was really difficult for me because the light, the sound, like all the people talking. So I still haven't quite gotten back to that yet, though people make fun of me and tell me I'm never there. So I mean, there is that. I do enjoy the competitive realm for sure. And probably the most important benefit of dance is it changes self-perception. It's so easy to get trapped in, I'm a patient, I'm sick. It compounds cycles. But in the dance studio, we identify as dancers instead of brain injury survivors. And that little break to me matters. It matters a lot. My dance instructor, when I started, he was very clear. He's like, in my studio, you're a dancer. whatever you want to be on your own time, you can be that on your own time. And so to me, it really, okay, what does it mean to be a dancer? And to me, well, I have to stand up straight. I have to listen to my instructor. I have to do my best, work with the music, work with others, share the studio space, and like that kind of thing. So it was a really good way. And I think that's what art does. It breaks us out of our everyday and gives us a chance to be someone else. Maybe not someone else, but another version of ourselves that we don't often recognize. Like I said, we get so involved in the therapeutic process, which is critical. Like that is really important. But for me, like after my first injury was 2016, after 6 years, you get tired. You get really tired of going to physio and psych. Like it's nice to just do something that everybody else does, right? And just feel like everybody else. And so that was something that was very important to me on the dance journey. And so challenges to use dance as therapy. When I was interviewing people for the article that I wrote for the Dance Current, one of the things that came up was it's nice to have a trained therapist. Not every dance teacher can do this type of work. And like I said in my intro, it's very difficult to get a dance therapist. There's two schools, one in Vancouver, which is West Coast Dance Movement and Therapy, and the other one is the National Dance Center for Therapy in Quebec. These programs, like I said, require master's level education. And then on top of that, another 3 years. I think in Vancouver, in British Columbia, you have to be a registered therapist. In Quebec, you don't. You can be a dance therapist, or come in with just a dance designation. But a lot of the problem with that is like, there's not enough research. And that was another thing that came out of the article that I wrote, was there isn't enough research. So if you're not a psychologist or social worker, there's a good chance the insurance company might not recognize it as therapy. So that is, to do all that training and not be recognized is a bit tough. And then so if you don't, in my case, my teacher was trauma informed. And a lot of why I chose him was because he had been through serious trauma, and dance helped him heal from it. And what you really need in an instructor is that if you are overwhelmed, if you are not feeling well, that they can give you that space without judgment. And that was something he could do because he'd been there, he'd done that. And so, yeah, so I would, my lessons were tough. I would start crying in the middle. He would give me a towel, let me get a sip of water, and put me back on the floor, which was great. I mean, it was definitely something that I needed in order to break out of being injured, being sick. And it really worked well. We worked really well together. But again, like we had a previous relationship, like he was my instructor before. And so there was that trust and that kind of thing. So yeah, you really need to be aware of what you're looking for. I mean, for me, I had already been working hard. I already knew him. So it was a bit different for my journey. I do not recommend just jumping in and working with someone unless you know them quite well. So that brings me to the last slide. So I don't want to discourage anybody from dancing. Motion is lotion. Get up and dance. Turn the music on. If you do it at home, great. And especially, like I said, if chronic pain is one of the symptoms, move. Like do anything. It works really well. But yeah, I mean, if you're in Montreal, Ontario has a lot of therapists. I saw one in like an advertisement for one in Calgary. So if you can find one, great. The biggest thing I find is don't be scared of going to a location like Les Grands Ballets. A lot of these, the therapists work in high-end schools, even Dance for Parkinson's. They're in one of the top jazz studios in Calgary. But yeah, it just, I don't be scared. They're there to help you, and they're trained. So definitely look into it and go. I talked to some of them too. So when in my interview, so I know they're lovely, lovely people who take it very seriously and who have a lot of experience and a lot of training. If you want to take a dance class, I would say look for private lessons. A lot of the private lessons are free for the first one, so you can see if there's a good fit between the instructor and you. So it's worth it to the instructor. Just tell them that if you have problems like I did with sound, can we tune it so we don't need as much sound, much music? Can we? I need a break every 10 minutes, and that kind of thing. And people are really really good about supporting you. Everybody wants to help you, and private lessons go at your own pace. And something that I said before, don't be scared to go pro. Competitive classes focus on technique with more detailed repetition. So it's not as important to do a lot of moves. The two you need to know very, very well. And for brain injury, that's great because you just get it over and over and over. And you know what? Everybody is getting it over and over. It's not just you. It's not because I'm sick, I need to do it this way. It's because no, that's the way it's done. Everybody does it. And yeah, take your friends. Group classes are a great way to spend time together, but also know your limits, right? If you have trouble with a lot of people, then probably the university classes aren't your friend. Go to a smaller studio, and those classes maybe 8 to 10. And you can talk to the studio too. Like, I don't like being with a lot of people. What class do you recommend? And that it's the community support. The community support definitely helps. And I think it really depends. I mean, for me, I'm a little bit of maybe not overachiever, but just that type of A-type personality. So I like to push. I like to push myself. And I don't think that's necessarily the right way to do things. We can enter into smaller increments and just to get us out of the house and into something different. And I think those things are really, really important too. But like I said, I mean, a lot of people want you to be successful, and yeah, take a chance, go out and have spend time with your friends doing something that's completely normal. Going out to a studio to take a class is something that everybody does. And so that was something that in my recovery was really important, that I really wanted to be like my old self, like everybody else. And this was just something that I could do. And yeah, it's just like I said, just some closing remarks. Motion is lotion. Wherever you are in your healing journey, turn up the music and dance. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Seema. I love that motion is lotion. I haven't heard that before. I actually used to dance when I was much younger, and I totally understand that the strangeness of dancing without music so often, just to like learn the rhythm and learn the pattern, and the importance of when you have pain and mobility issues, that that practice really does help you develop further movements and like learning the technique and learning the language of dance, really. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. We do have a question here that came in. What accommodations can be made in dance therapy if limited mobility is consideration?
There's lots. I was reading a research paper actually, and it was about a tango class. And the person was in a wheelchair, and he still like did all like tango has a lot of hand motions. And so he just did the hand motions, and that was enough, right? We're not looking to compete on what is it? Shall we or what is it?
So
What are
you
the
think
dance shows?
so you think you can dance?
Yes, that's it. So you think you dance or like, the Strictly Ballroom or like any of those shows, right? We're there to explore movement. And like I said, I talked to someone at the Montreal school from the Montreal school, and that's what they were saying too. They just work in your boundaries, right? So if you can stretch, great. If you can't, great. Like we just do whatever you can. And like I said, I think the biggest thing is to put yourself into the studio. Once you're there, half the healing happens. And then whatever happens, yeah, if you need to take a break, everybody is accommodating towards that. The biggest thing for the dance therapist is when the emotions come up and being able to have space and hold space. But mobility, rarely an issue. Like I said, they have dance for Parkinson's classes, they have all kinds of things. So if that's a concern, talk to the teacher or to the class, and I'm sure they'll come up with something unique as long as you know what you need. Like I said, for me, it wasn't so much mobility, it was light and sound. So I practice without. So yeah, I hope you have a lot of fun.
And I have another question here. Why do you think that this is not a more common therapy recommended for people living with brain injury?
I think so. What we discussed in the interviews with the other dance therapists was that there's not a lot of research, which was what I was thinking about doing, was doing a research project on it. But also too, like, it's really intensive training to be a dance therapist. Like I said, once I finish my master's degree, I have to go for another 3 years. And for me, I'm 42. So it doesn't make sense at my age. And for younger people, because there's only two schools, like you don't know that this is a path that you can take. Like I know a lot of people in the dance programs at the University of Calgary. I live in Calgary, that don't know that they could go this route. And so until it becomes more accepted, it's really, really difficult. So that's why I put in the piece of, just because you don't have a dance therapist, don't give up. Movement
Mhm.
is so important. But yeah, talk to people, be clear on what you need, and everybody will be willing to help you. Our, our in our studio, dancers are very emotional, so we get it. We understand that that's going to come up, and to how to deal with it. I don't think it's as big of an issue in ballroom. In ballet, I don't think it's an issue either, because a lot of they want it to be more accessible. It's not just for the
Mhm.
pros, it's for everyone. And so I was in a dance class and I was like, I have problems with my neck. I can't do a lot of the jumping. They're like, okay, fine, no issue. And with ballet, you have a bar, you can exercise with the bar. It's just a lot of support. Like I've always found the dance community to be very warm and welcoming. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It does.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that it may not be recommended as a typical means for recovery just because there aren't that many, certified dance therapists around to support them, right? So maybe going the route of, understanding, or we get the word out there, that understanding that it doesn't necessarily need to be with a therapist that you're doing it, but just start with like basic classes and see how you feel, and just start exploring little by little and see if it's something that works for you. So no, I really do appreciate this talk, and thanks for that. Um,
There was one more.
yeah, there's one. Yeah, I just saw this here. With doctor approval, can informal dance therapy be done at home? Are there YouTube videos?
Definitely. There's lots out there. And I think if you're doing YouTube, then you can actually Google like dance therapy and
Mhm.
get something with a certified instructor, especially because of the pandemic. A lot of dance instructors have gone online. And so you're in the best situation, because then you could pick if you want ballet, if you want Latin, if you want ballroom, like you whatever you want at that point. Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm really glad you said doctor approval, because I think the more we talk to our clinicians and say, hey, this is working for me, the more it'll be accepted. Like it's done wonders for me. I feel better, not only physically, but emotionally as well. They'll be more likely to say, hey, this is the thing that everybody's doing. So maybe we should look more into it, that kind of thing. So yes, definitely. Everyone, tell your doctor if you're doing it, because that's how we create change. That's how things change. And like even for me, that's what I told my insurance company. I'm like, this is the best thing that that helped me the most. They still didn't cover it, but at least the seed is planted that something is happening. And then also to writing about it in a dance magazine, where therapy generally isn't spoken about. It helps, right? Every little bit helps, and so we all are advocates um, for the therapies that work the best for us. So thank you very much for that question.
Thank you. All right, Sima, I'm going to say thank you for your presentation today, and I'm sure we'll continue this discussion offline in the future, and hopefully we'll see some more articles coming from you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.